For over 20 years, the Fire Store has equipped first responders with the best in firefighting gear. Discover seasonal savings on the gear you trust and visit thefirestore.com to shop everything but the truck.
I've been told by everybody up on this roof that they're all off the roof. I am on the roof of Exposure 4. Got fire through the roof of the fire building in the entire rear section. Now remember, given the payday, has been accounted for, okay? 610B, that was the day date, 610B.
I'm here. We got a fire. 1.5-story, single-family dwelling. Fire shown from the second floor. Give me a second alarm on this.
Up to the top floor. I got people hanging out the top floor windows with a baby.
Commercial building. A lot of fire, a lot of smoke. Go ahead and strike a third alarm on my orders on this.
Got people on the front fire escape here with windows centered below them. We need somebody up there.
Yeah, let them know we got a job. I'm pulling up now. Second alarm, I got a 1-story single-family frame. Heavy fire showing from the attic.
So we're using all hands. We got one line stretched, fire on the fourth floor. Second line being stretched. Primary searches are underway.
Hey, welcome back to our fire engineering podcast, The Command Post. I'm Chief Rick Lasky, along with my best bud, Chief John Salka. And we're glad you can join us again. We appreciate you, and we appreciate all the feedback that we get from our viewers and listeners, our friends, our family in the fire service. Reminder real quick, we always do this. Our Hump Day Hangouts are the third Wednesday of every month at fireengineering.com at noon Central Time. If you miss it, we usually post it and share it with you. As soon as we're done with the live version at noon Central Time, Fire Engineering, our producer, advances it and posts it on YouTube. So if you're ever looking for any of our shows, the issues and challenges of the fire service, the Command Post, or I'm sorry, our Hump Day Hangouts issues and challenges, you can go to fireengineering.com and click on the link for the Hump Day Hangouts. You can go back to the archives and pull them up, just like you can these. If you want to go back, God, John, I don't know, we've been doing these for decades, if you will. We've been doing a lot. I know I started doing the fire engineering, I call it Fire Engineering Talk Radio in the late 90s when I was in Coeur d'Alene. I did about 80 shows for Pride and Ownership. And then when Bobby joined us, Bobby Halton, we went live, and then we started doing the Command Posts and that. So, but all the archives are there. If you want to check them out, folks, please do. FDIC reminder, we're going to be posting our classes again. Wednesday at FDIC, we'll have a breakout session after opening ceremonies. A firefighter's fire chief, the firefighter's fire chief, what it takes to be the firefighters or a firefighter's fire chief. We hear it all the time. Hey, Chief Salka, what do you mean by he or she was a firefighter's fire chief? What does it take to get there? So it's a really good class. And on Monday we'll have our 4-hour workshop at the pre-conference setups for 5-alarm leadership. The breakout sessions, you just have to show up as quick as you can, because as soon as they fill the room up, they close the doors due to the codes and stuff. And that always happens to our classes and a lot of other ones. The pre-conference you have to register for, and it's open right now. So start registering so you don't miss out, because those seats go fast too. As soon as they fill up, that's it. Registration's over. It's booked. So, and real quick, if you're looking for any of our company officer academies, battalion chief academies, or any of the classes that John and I do together, I post them for both of us on my website at chieflasky.com. It has all the information. We've probably got 9 or 10 already scheduled company officer academies for 2026, all over the country. So we've got one coming up in December, right in the Cincinnati metro area with Union Township. That'll be a 3-day company officer academy, first week of December. And then we're off running strong in 2026. So, John, what's going on in the Salka compound? Is it snowing yet up there?
Nothing much. They're talking possibly snow coming up a couple of days. We will. It may snow. There's a big cold front that's supposed to push all the way down almost to New York City. But if we do get snow, which we might, it'll never stick. So we might get snow in a couple of days, but I don't think it'll be. I don't think it'll last.
Yeah.
It went and it came back.
Well, I just know. I know you like the winter. I know you like the summer. You like. I guess, buddy, that's the one thing I miss. I love Texas. You know how much I love Texas. Nobody burns our flag. Our governor loves police and fire. No state income tax. But I got to tell you, I do miss the 4 seasons. You know, when I was up in Chicago, you know, winter was really bad. About the time you got sick of winter, it was spring. And you start smelling like fresh lawns being cut, and baseball and stuff. And about the time you're out of spring, you're into summer. About the time you're okay, summer's been hot enough. It's fall, and you smell the leaves burning in the fireplaces. Then winter again.
Yep.
I miss the 4 seasons. I'm
I
so
always,
jealous that you got that.
I always said the same thing. I said, whoever designed that four-season thing did a nice job. Came out nice.
Well, so hey, so how about this? How about we talked about this the other day, and I know we both thought this would be a good topic for the show. Our viewers, our listeners, we don't use a script. Well, we'll talk about a title ahead of time, like, hey, why don't we? John will go, hey, next command post or next something. Hey, let's talk about this. And I'll go, okay, we'll jot it down on a piece of paper, and that'll be our topic. But John, we've talked about this in class a lot. A while back, I think the fire service kind of we lost our way, if you say that. A few people started, I think, good intentions. We got into this hit it hard from the yard. We got into this we're number one thing. I wanted to talk to you about that in a second, or in a couple of minutes. It became, I don't want to say softer, because I think the fire service is awesome. I think we're some of the most proactive people out there. Yes, we have some that are not, but the majority are. As much as you and our good friend Steve Chikarotis, who we love from Chicago and from Chicago Fire, I used to joke with him. I actually did a post, an article a long time ago, John, called, for that movie Backdraft, 150 years of tradition undefeated by progress, which to those that say that's a line, it's not. It was posted on a sheet of paper. It was a poster in the firehouse. In the movie Backdraft. So it wasn't like, somebody says it's a line from Backdraft. It was actually posted. But as much as it's a funny line, 150 years of tradition, people have progress, John, I actually did one called The Ultimate Insult. It wasn't towards the movie by no means. I mean, Ray Hoff, the best man at my wedding, was one of the two Backdraft brothers. I love the movie. It's not about Chicago. Chicago is one of the most progressive fire departments I know. I gained tremendous experience with my mentors there. That is a absolutely incredible fire department. My whole point was, 150 years of tradition of progress. I didn't, my point was really, I call it the ultimate insult, because I said, walk out on your apparatus floor, look at fire engines nowadays. John, you and I talked about this. We have firefighters with a tablet or an iPhone in their hand running their tower ladder from across the street. They're on a tablet running the boom. They're walking their rig with their iPhone, checking all the lights, and you can do this now. How we're alerted to calls, SCBAs, thermal imaging, turnout gear. But I mean, really, you look at where we started in 1736 with Ben Franklin and throwing buckets of water with leather buckets to with us to where we're at. I think the fire service is pretty freaking incredible. We tend to pick on ourselves a little bit, and we might be a little bit behind what's going on in special forces and the Marines. But the technology gets to us. So, John, that's the first thing I just wanted to bring up was you've been doing this 50 years, busiest companies in New York City, a volunteer for 50 years. You've seen things go from the old days, and there were people before you and I that had their own old days, and before that, I think we're pretty progressive. I mean, I think the fire service as a whole is pretty progressive, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. And a lot of it's not necessarily super advanced technology. Some of it, and you just mentioned all the little gadgets, even just simple stuff, which we call simple now, but 5 or 10 or 15 years ago, thermal imaging, TICs, thermal imaging cameras. That was like earth shattering when that.
Do you remember the first one you guys had, that you had a Carnes helmet?
Right, a guy in Rescue 3 had the Tupperware helmet with a big goofy, thing stuck on top of it. And eventually graduated into, now you don't even see them. Now guys have them, they're little tiny things, Yeah. And that's just thermal imaging cameras. Never mind radios. I talk in our company officer academy. I talk about the FDMY's accountability system and how we can do a roll call. We call it a Fireground roll call. Everybody else calls it a PAR. How we can do a roll call with the radios in conjunction with the computer at headquarters, and everything gets put in at the beginning of a tour. Who's riding what position? So, and your portable radio. If you're the roof guy in ladder 5-8, and you're wearing a portable radio, the roof firefighter's portable radio for ladder 5-8, when you transmit at the scene of a fire, in the deputy's car, there's a screen and it lights up. What does it light up? Your name. Lights up your name. Firefighter James Kelly, or James Kelly, firefighter, ladder 5-8. and then it'll say roof. It'll say what your position is. Why? Because
Well,
that morning the captain made a roll call on a computer on the intranet, right? And he put your name in, Kelly, as the roof firefighter. So that goes down to headquarters, and now everything intertwines with each other. So the portable radios are talking to a computer that already knows what position everybody's at citywide. So I can hear a guy just say, "Help! Help! I'm hurt. I'm in the rear yard." He doesn't even have to say who he is, and we can look at the screen and see who he is and what his assignment is and what his name is, and we can go get him.
well, and John, so all right, you worked with the biggest fire department in the world, the FDNY, which I always say this in class. You heard me say it. My best buddy John will say, "Hey, the FDNY is far from perfect, but they do a ton of shit right." And you guys you talk about another progressive. The stuff you got going on at the Rock today, whether it's high rise or science, things like that. I mean,
drones responding to fires. Every multiple on fire. There's a captain there with a drone flying it over and giving a command.
Yeah, I don't even know what that unit's called. I was just going to go. That's where I was going with this, John. Picture you're a battalion chief in the Bronx and you're wondering what's going on at the roof or the back or the exposure or where the pre-plans. And this whole unit, a captain lieutenant with that front piece with the green letters, is showing up. He's got the drones for you. He's got pre-plan He shows up with this electronic wonder world of everything that Chief John Salka can use in the Bronx. It's phenomenal. So we've went with the technology.
Oh, the FDNY robotics, the robotics unit, and they use drones for all sorts of.
Unbelievable. And I know Denver was experimenting with this. I read an article where they went 24 hours a day with their drone operators, and they actually have drones mounted on certain buildings in the city. And those drones can launch and they can beat the police department or a fire engine to a scene.
And who's that? What city?
Denver, the city of Denver, Colorado. And there's a lot of this thing will launch, be there, and a dispatcher can send it to you and show you actually have smoke showing or don't, or what's on fire.
Before you even get there. Right.
Yeah. My buddy Rick Ballantyne, they're doing this he's just retired from Aspen, Colorado. And they do this with Wildland. I just did a conference call with them. They have cameras mounted in these areas to these people, and they're monitored 24. And they can tell you, we got smoke, we got this, we got that, we got that. And
right, like what the old fire towers used to be. A guy up in a fire tower looking around. Up, I see some smoke. The southeast quadrant, about 9 miles. Well, now they can do it electronically. You can have these passive cameras scanning, and with the electronics available today, that camera could probably zoom in and accurately measure and say 3.2 miles from, whatever spot they want to get to.
That's exactly what it does.
Without staffing, without manning it, without anybody being there, just the cost of the equipment.
And I love that comparison. I'm going to tell them that about we used to sit in the tower with binoculars or telescope back in the old days. It can triangulate. It can tell you how big, we've come so far. But what I was going with this, John, is back to our topic, which I think we need to talk about, safety, and we'll get to your article you did in a little bit. We kind of lost our way, and I think we're back now. We're back to fighting fires. We're back to, you've heard me say this before. We've told people about the best campaign I think we've ever done is the close the door campaign. Teach people to close the door. Close the door, we're coming to get you. And you've heard me say we lie to kids every October Fire Prevention Month, telling them if you smell smoke and your door's hot, don't open it because we're coming to get you.
Right.
Well, it kind of depends on who you.
But maybe not. But maybe it'll look too scary from outside, and we're not going to go in.
Yeah. Well, there's no one alive in that building, right? How many times you heard that? Is a victim survived? And then you see these guys
profiling. Oh God.
You've mentioned this and we both have mentioned this, where you see the hallway picture on social media gutted, and the bedroom on the left gutted, and the bedroom on the right looks like both of our rooms, not a wisp of smoke. We're telling people to close the door, wait for us. And some departments are still standing outside saying, well, nobody can be alive in there. You just told them to close the damn door. That's why vet enter and search and all these different ways and being aggressive with,
and some of those incidents were highly publicized. Remember that? I think it was a fire captain that was standing outside a building on the phone while a dispatcher was telling him, no, I'm talking to the woman. She's alive and she's in that house that you're in front of. He said, "No, it's we can't get in here." I think he ended up, sort of.
He got fired. 20 minutes. She was on the phone in her pajamas at the dining room table for 20 minutes.
And died.
He was Snapchat. He was on his phone doing social media stuff. But so John, where I'm going with this is, and we've talked about this before, and I want you to talk about this because you have a great way of describing it. There was an article a while back. We won't beat up on who it was. A few years ago, let's say that, and it said we're number one. And you and I both well, let me back up. I agree to disagree with that. Where I agree is, yes, we are number one when it comes to our administration gives the best training, the best equipment, the best apparatus, the best leaders we have. In preparation, we are number one. Let's give Goose Creek Fire Department in South Carolina, where your son Brian's a lieutenant. The chief there's a great chief. You brag on him all the time about. Let's give our guys and gals everything they need to get their job done. Let's train them. Let's give them everything to keep them, to send them home safe to their families. That's when we're number one until the tones go off. And I know some of that carries over, right? Come in and take care of your people and RIT teams. I know that, folks. But what I'm getting at is you said it best, and I'm going to steal some of your thunder and ask you to talk about it. You said you pull up at a house and some mom's screaming at you, tell you to turnout coach, saying her kid just ran back in there after the dog. You take your helmet off, put your face beside, look inside your helmet. There's a number two in there. Number one's inside her. So talk about your thoughts on this whole 1 versus 2 thing.
Right, absolutely. It was an article I wrote years ago. I don't know how many years ago. It's in my new book, The Fire Scene. One of the articles I
published by Fire Engineering Books.
What? Huh?
Published
by Fire Engineering. Great company. I've got 3 published with them. And that we are number one concept, that we are number one, rah, cheer. Like you said, there's some validity to it in some specific conditions. But some people started carrying that to the fire scene. Some people started carrying that to the fire scene and saying, oh, yeah, that's risk versus reward. Risk versus reward. We got to decide if we're going to risk it. Is the reward great enough? Well, actually, you can use that risk versus reward actually for my side of the argument. And there are 2 sides of the argument here, in case somebody's saying, what argument? There are 2 sides to that. Some people, I don't know what their level is. And that's a third element here that I didn't even write in the article, but I have since developed, mentally, I've thought about since I wrote the article, is everybody's risk versus reward is different. Captain Rick Lasky and his team get up to the roof of a building to do some roof ventilation. And when you get up there, you say, hold on, fellas, hold on, before we step over the parapet wall. Man, that roof looks like it's sagging a little. It looks like it's maybe bubbling, or maybe it's a little spongy. You know what? We're not going out on that roof. Reach over with the saw if you can, but we're not going out. And another guy gets up there and might see similar or maybe different conditions, and he decides that we're going to go out. We'll just walk along the edge. So number one, there is no standard on every condition, whether it's an interior condition or a smoke condition or a heat condition or a roof condition or a stability condition. That's number one. When you're the boss, that's your decision. You can't just throw it around and be light about it but it still is your decision. And secondly is, yes, so we're one and your crew is number one and you're number one. You want to take care of yourself and go back to your family. You want your crew to all survive, and not only survive the fire, like you say, survive your career. You want to make sure you guys are wearing their masks all the time. So 20 years later, after they retire, they're not getting cancer or getting lung disease and stuff. But once the bells ring, once we arrive at the scene of a fire, then those folks are now number one. Those people are the priority. I've said that again in the Company Officer Academy, a couple of the stories we talk about when we're doing the scenario element of the program. And I talk about it. I said, you pull up. I'm going to use the same story you just mentioned briefly. You pull up, and there's a woman saying, Mike, get in there. My son just ran back in. He's 4 years old. And I ask the audience after I tell that story, okay, who's going? Who's going in? Who's running? There's flames coming out the top of the front door of that house. Flames coming out the top of the door. Good smoke pushing out the bottom. You would probably never think about going in there without a hose line and maybe opening it from the outside first. But a woman just told you, my son just ran in there 4 seconds ago. As soon as you guys made the turn, he was just running in there. Somebody's got to go in there. And that's when you transition to position number 2, to priority number 2, to value number 2. Suddenly we become number 2. And you better know you're probably going to get hurt if you go in there. You're probably going to come out with some ear burns or some neck burns or something. And you should know that, but you should still be doing it, because it is a sliding scale at a fire sometimes. And then there's sometimes where you get to a fire and somebody telling you, I think there's people in there, and you're like, okay, man, step back here, please. And you know very well that you and nobody else is going in there until you knock the whole first floor down. So there are different conditions that we have to deal with, and I'm not here to describe the condition because I have conditions that I know I would face, for somebody, knowing somebody who's in there, right? And you have conditions, and our listeners have conditions that they know they would face. and they're going to vary a little bit. Different people have different. That's why everybody doesn't get the Medal of Honor in the military. Just a couple of guys got them because they got a big set, and their conditions that they'll go through are much more dangerous. And it's the same thing in the fire department. There's some guys in the fire department, Tom Neary, is just one of them, that have gotten multiple high New York City, very highly rated, medals on medal day. 2, 3 medals, some of these guys in their career. Most guys never get one. Most guys never get one medal. Some guys get one. A couple of guys get 2, and then there's a couple of guys that get even more than that because they just have a higher standard. They just, for themselves, they will endure, more dangerous and threatening conditions than maybe somebody else will. It doesn't make the guy that won't face that. It doesn't make the guy a coward or less of a firefighter. But everybody's got their own standard. However, there is a basic standard and an expectation of. My favorite fire department phrase: "Get your ass in there." Get your ass in there. And there are lots of people in the fire service trying to figure out how not to get in there. How not to get in there. Maybe not at every fire, maybe not at every scene, but there are plenty of guys that the minute they see any condition that they're not happy with, they got something else to do. And I'm not buying it, and it ain't right.
Well, and again, I'll pick on the FDNY here. They are one of the safest fire departments that I know. There's a lot of safe fire departments out there that are very aggressive. We talked about it. Wichita, Stockton, we talk about all the time. Louisville, they're very, very safe. I used to say Louisville is a very safe, aggressive fire department. We know when to go, when not to go.
I saw a Stockton video the other day. I couldn't turn it off. I was like, holy cow, look at these guys. They were hustling. They were stretching. They were forcing doors, cutting locks all at once. I mean, it was like, I think it was a minute and a half long, the whole video. From the time you saw the tiller rig pulling up till the time they were inside knocking fire down, it was like under a minute. It was amazing.
The driver, second due engine, stretching 5-inch by himself off the back of the first.
By himself, running down the block with 5-inch.
Cutting through one guy's cutting through the chain link fence, another one's forced, another one's straight. And every one of them had their hoods on, their SCBA waist straps were buckled. There's nobody, so you can't go. Oh, but look at they didn't have their glove, whatever. Now, I'll go back
to citizens. The citizens of Stockton should be smoking cigarettes and then just throwing them on the floor or throwing them on the couch across the living room. They are so safe. They can light fires in their own houses. They're going to survive. The Stockton Fire Department is just I'm so impressed by that place.
They're absolutely awesome. And I said this years ago. I remember talking with you and our friend Donnie Haid and Chief John Norman. There was a time the FDOI long time ago where guys weren't wearing their gloves maybe all the time, and they'd get their hands cut. And they told me if you get your hand cut because you're wearing your gloves, you're getting time. You're going home. And so it was like, guys, put your damn gloves on. And all of a sudden, you know what? Now they put their gloves on. And I show that picture of your guys, a 45 engine, every single call on the engine, stand at the back of it, John. They know. And I hate that phrase, a BS call, because that's how guys get hurt because they drop their guard and get complacent. They know it's a BS gas leak call. They are dressed out, everything on, hoods, air packs, radios, waiting to stretch line off the back of an engine, 3 of them, listen to their radios for calling those bullshit. Where other guys, like you say, be inside with their arms hanging out the window, or they wouldn't be dressed, or they'd be carrying their coats and stuff. So this all comes down to the whole leadership side you and I talk about. Who's running the show? Parents that let their kids go out in wintertime with no coats on, their kids get sick. Parents that let their kids play with forks in the outlets and play around the stove and play around hot. You know what I'm saying? Leadership and parenting is the same thing. Good company officers will treat their firefighters like they're their own kids, like they're their own family. And you know what? That means being mom or dad sometimes and scolding people to keep them safe and alive. And that's what good bosses do is go, no, John, get over here. No, dude, we don't do that. Like remember Steve Chikarotis' story we mentioned not too long ago with Benny Crane, my idol. When Benny Crane, who retires as district chief of Chicago, was a lieutenant. And Steven, remember he said this when he accepted his Lifetime Achievement Award. He's inside on a 2.5 with a bowstring, and they're fighting fire. And Benny come in, screaming for them to get out of here now. Then he goes, we got outside, the whole roof came down. He goes, and I thought he was going to come over and say, see, guys, that's why I want. He came over and yelled at him again. Because Benny cares too much about his people to lose one of them. Not pay attention to things. So,
and everybody's got different methods and different ways of doing it and different voices, you know what I'm saying? And that's fine too. Yeah. Again, just like the other things I talked about a few minutes ago, You have your own way of doing things. You know, some guys are. I hate to say some guys are screamers like it's acceptable because I really don't like screamers. But some guys are more verbal. Some guys can say, yeah, I yell at somebody every week. Every week I'm yelling at one of my guys. And some guys just never yell. And they're good bosses too. So again, you got to be you. We talked that in our leadership class and our company officer academy. You got to be you. Don't try and be the guy you were or your great officer that you used to work with. You know, I never tried to be Pete Lund. I learned some great stuff from him. And the same thing goes for these for what we're talking about, for this safety issue.
Well,
you know,
John, you remember
safety Nazis, right? It's not meant as a really negative, disparaging remark, but to some degree it is. Some guys are so overly concerned, and some guys we know, some names we know, you know, they're so overly concerned about every little thing that happened. You don't have this on, you don't have that on. What about what's he doing with those gloves on? Well, it's a still photo. Maybe he put the regular gloves on a moment later. You know what I'm saying? Like, some guys get so bent out of shape about stuff. But we always have to say when we're done talking about this that safety is important. And I just wrote an article. I told you I just wrote an article. My article title was "Forget Safety, Embrace Training." Right? Safety is and this eventually had to come up today. Safety is a destination. Safety is not the process. You got to do what you got to do during the process. Sometimes during the process, you realize, holy crap, I guess I should have pulled my boots up, but it's too late now. I'm on my knees fighting this fire, you know. So you're not supposed to put a fire out with roll-up boots rolled down, but sometimes it happens. So safety is the destination. Safety is where you want to be after it's all over. Okay, guys, hey guys, man, knock up job. We did such a great job. Everybody okay? I got a little burn on my wrist, Lou, but otherwise I'm good. How about you, Tommy? Oh, I'm good too. And that's good. When we're all together, we're all alive, we're all, you know, in good condition after a fire. That's the safety place that we wanted to get to. That's the destination. But during the fire, sometimes things have to happen. Sometimes you have to make some trade-offs. Sometimes you have to enter an area that you normally would never enter, you know, and say, you know what, that kid's right in there. I saw him go in myself. Or I saw a woman at that window. When we pulled up, she was at that window waving. I got out of the rig. I turned to close the door. I looked up. She was gone. We're going in there. We're putting the ladder up and we're going in, you know. So, yeah.
Well, and it kind of changed, you know, because you talk about safety as a destination, safety is the end result. Years and years ago, when a safety officer, the word safety really emerged in the fire service into an actual assignment. And I remember I was at a fire once, and there was two of us jockeying around some trees to get a 35-foot, you know, extension ladder up, portable ladder. And we hear this, hey, you need 3 people to do that safely. And I turn around, it's a guy with a safety vest on. I went, then get over here and help us. We're in the middle of the throes of a fire. You're standing there, you know, looking at 2 of us struggling to get this ladder around this tree so we can get it extended. Then come over here, Mopey, and give us a hand real quick. Now,
I would have said something else.
But now, look, you and I both have been assigned as, you know, you pull up the scene and whether they give you operations or RIT or the back of the building or the second floor or whatever. And I would time say, hey, Rick, do me a favor, you take safety for me? Sure. I'll take safety. And you know, what I'm doing is I'm another eyes and ears for you, Chief Salka. I walk up, I do hot laps around that building, 360s. I straighten out stuff right now that I see, guys, no, or whatever. I call you and say, I've got a fracture on the backside of this building and the wall. It's separating, you know, blah, blah, blah. You know, you're the eyes and ears. You're watching things, you know, and some of the programs now are really good and fluid as what you should be doing as a safety officer. But I love when you said that. You told me about that article about, you know, safety is the destination. Safety is the end result, because training, you know, without training, we suck. You just said, you said that without saying it. You know, forget safety, train your firefighters, because the safety is going to come with training. You know, you can't tell me you're keeping your people safe if you're not training them properly, equipping them properly, and managing them on the fireground or accident scene properly. Same thing for a motor vehicle accident. If you're not making sure that your apparatus is blocking properly, people have safety vests on, it's lit up, the scene's controlled, scene awareness and all this stuff, then you can't tell me that safety is going to be the end result. Everything, like in Texas, volunteer fire departments have to go through a TIM class, a traffic incident management class. You have to go through it. We get a lot of people, just like the rest of the country, killed out in accidents. You know, there's certain things, you know, training. Look, you and I do it for a living. We train people all over North America. You know, it is the absolute foundation to our successes. And without it, we end up with Class A jackets on and going to funerals and guys hurt and guys missing fingers and things like that. So you are so right on with it. It is the destination, but it doesn't happen without the training, right? I mean,
and it doesn't mean we forget about training or we forget. It doesn't mean we forget about safety during the fire. It's not like just forget about safety, even though I wrote "Forget Safety, Embrace Training." But it was an exaggerated title to make the point. I mean, I remember many times being at working fires. Maybe I'd be the all-hands chief, or maybe I'd be the incident commander. I don't even know. But I remember specifically. Matter of fact, on the cover of our 5-alarm leadership book, there's several pictures. You at the scene of one of your fires, and me at the scene of one of mine. And you can see the back of me. You can just about make my name out on the coat. And I'm sort of talking to a crew, an engine crew, that's up on the sidewalk between a parked car and the front of a one-story taxpayer building, which is roaring, and they're fighting the fire. And they're getting some good penetration. They're getting the line in the window, the line in the door. And I got to run up to them and say, hey, Lieutenant, get off the dang sidewalk. Get out here on the other side of the car. You'll get just about the same penetration, same effect. But if the front wall falls down, as Vinny Dunn told us and lots of other people over the years, the sidewalk is not the place to be in a one-story taxpayer that's on fire. So, and a couple of times the fires I had to tell the same engine more than once to get off the sidewalk because in their eagerness to get the job done and to go there. So that's not the kind of thing that you can ignore. You can't look past that safety issue. That's an important immediate, correction that you got to make. But I'm not running around telling a guy, oh, you need 3 guys to raise that ladder instead of 2, or no, your top button's not buttoned, stuff like that. Some guys, just like everything else in life, some guys get carried away.
Well,
so
you
have to create a balance.
Yeah, you remember Bill Manning's? I have it in my Pride and Ownership book, the white cover, Fire Engineering Magazine. Remember when Bill Manning was our editor in chief? He was so tired of people, every magazine cover. Oh, his ear was exposed, or this. He's like, so he actually he said, and the subhead for the picture was the perfect Fireground. It was a blank white page that said Fire Engineering December issue, whatever it is, with no picture. He goes, there you go.
Famous cover, famous point though. He made a great point.
Oh, but John, and I'll bring you back, and not to embarrass you, I use this in the Company Officer Academy all the time and other places. What at your retirement ceremony, which I was absolutely overwhelmed. I still to this day, I don't know how you shut down part of the Bronx like that. It was the coolest thing I've seen. Hundreds of firefighters and the street littered with fire engines and ladder trucks and rescues and chiefs. But the firefighter with the guy that organized it,
Pete.
Pete. So when he leaned up and when he said what he said, he's got tears in his eyes. And Jay Jonas was talking about you, referred to you as the Babe Ruth of the fire service, which us baseball people know what that means. And I look over, I go, yeah. I looked at him, I go, yeah, pretty tough. He goes, Chief, you have no idea. I said, no. He goes, no. Let me tell you. You have no idea how much I miss that guy, but he could be a son of a bitch to work for. He goes, he's like a damn safety Nazi. You get off the rig without your tools, without your gear, you're going to get an earful. If he says time to get out, you better get out, or he'll drag you out by your earlobe. He goes, he runs, he went on about your fire, and he said this. He goes, I could be getting my ass kicked on the floor of a tenement with fire. When I hear the 1-8 pull up and I hear his voice on the radio, I know everything's going to get better. He goes, I'd follow him anywhere, which we know is the ultimate compliment for an officer. And then he finished it, John, by saying, I'd follow him to the gates of hell with nothing in my hands but a Halligan. Now, it's dramatic, and I love that statement he made. It's what a freaking incredible statement about you. But the part about being a safety, above all, Daddy, the parent in the room, the battalion commander, Chief Salka, is going to jump your shit if you get off without your gear on, without your tools. If I say get out, because you care so much about your firefighters. I can remember my dad and mom yelling at me when I was a kid to keep me safe, to keep me from doing something stupid. Sometimes you got to coach loud. You got to grab a hold of people and say no, because we've seen people fall through a roof, fall off a ladder, cut their toes off and stuff like that. So for the people that go, oh, well, Chief Salka, Chief Lasky, they got a little loud with me. I got my feelings hurt. I'd rather you get your feelings hurt and go home safely, and I take care of you.
Picked up the wrong application if you get your feelings hurt by getting yelled.
Exactly. But I love that. Again, everything and John, you say it so wonderfully in classes and when we do other shows about, guys, bottom line is training. Train your damn people. Train them. This should be every single day is a training day. I've said that for decades. Every day is a training day. Train them, stretch hose, Do your classroom, do your round table, have a cup of coffee, talk tactics, run the saws, carry your tools, work with like your guys. The probie shows up at the firehouse, doesn't get yelled at and browbeat. Your guys are like at the front door waiting, grabbing them, welcome, I'll put your stuff down. And they're already showing them like their stuff. Okay, I'm going to show you this side of the engine. John's going to show you this side. It's a
right. And every day after that, every shift after that, that same probie is done checking the rig by like 8 o'clock in the morning or 7:45 when the shift doesn't even start till 9. And all the other guys know that because he was broken in right, and that's company policy. And he was trained right at the academy, and he's trained right in the firehouse. So there's all these different elements, all these different ingredients go into, like, look at the Stockton Fire Department. Look at we've mentioned so many great fire departments, right? Look at fire departments like that. They're so good because A, they take training seriously. The department provides good training, in-service training. A couple of times, however many times a year it is, you're out of service. You drive to the Rock, or you drive to the Fire Academy or the training center, and you do, whatever you do, morning training, afternoon training, along with 2 drills a day. FDNY, for example, 2 drills a day, 1 in the morning and one in the evening, right? Along with all your basic training you get from probie school, and then every company's got their own standards of turning out quick and everybody knowing what they're doing and being fully geared up before you get off the rig. You start putting all those things together, and that's how you get a Stockton Fire Department. That's how you get an FDNY. That's how you get all these wonderful fire departments that we talk about online. We talk about online. We didn't work there. I mean, some of them we have, but most of them we just look at them and say, look at these places, and that's the ingredients you want. Sometimes it's the chief of department enforcing and making sure everybody's doing in-service training every day. And then obviously the company officers play a gigantic role, and the senior firefighters help break the young new probie firefighters in, how to check the rig and, what order to do it and make sure they do this and don't forget to do that last compartment or whatever it is. The point is it's a big puzzle, and there's a lot of pieces, and you can't just do it. Even if you just do training, you're still going to fall short because those other elements have to be taken care of as well.
And we've said this too about the Stocktons, the Louisvilles, the Wichita, Kansas, and all of them, but coast to coast. Like you said, there's tons of great fire departments, Fort Worth and so on and so on. Pearland, Texas. We've always found it amazing, folks, to our listeners, our viewers, the fire departments that are the busiest, that see the most fire, that run the most runs, seem to train the most. And those that are the slowest train the least. And you would think it'd be the opposite. And John, there are posers out there. You see these guys, helmets, big mustaches, tattoo stuff. And then you watch them, you go, this is all an act. And then you go somewhere and you can smell it, you can see it. They are dialed in, they are into the job, radios in their harnesses, they're out the door quick, they turn out fast, they're safe, they're aggressive, they have their tools wrapped, everything. You could just see all the little, what they call tells.
That happened the day that I was in Wichita to go see Brian when he was in the academy, And I tell that story about being across the street and going down, and they just happened to have a whatever was going on there in the park. People with tents selling stuff and whatever. And a rig pulled up, and I ended up encountering a crew, a towel ladder crew, an officer and 2 firefighters, and just meeting them, just talking to them, just looking at them, observing, looking how their gear was, how they were wearing it, how they had their flashlights, their hand tools, like you said, the way they were wrapped. And then they started showing me stuff. Oh, Chief, come take a look at this. You might be interested in this. I never met these guys in my life. And within a half an hour, I knew that the Wichita Fire Department was a special place. And of course, it got proven to me later on. I went back to that firehouse later that day and took a few runs in with them. And they explained to me how they do stuff with the engine and the truck. And I was absolutely, not completely, over the top impressed with that place. And I never saw them go to a fire. Before I saw them go to a fire. Later on, I did see them at fires. But so and you're right. And whether it's Wichita, whether it's Stockton, whether it's Coeur d'Alene, whether Louisville, New York City, doesn't matter where it is. There are hundreds and hundreds of fire departments probably that operate at that high level because they have great officers and great chiefs that make great policies and great firefighters that follow and do what they're supposed to do and love the job. They're there because they love doing what they do, not because it's the second best job in the city, with pay and vacation.
And John, this. We've seen fire departments that, so they're not so regimented that they are up all the time. We've been to fire departments where the guys at? Oh, they're out there. They're out shooting basketball right now, or they're overdoing it. I mean, there's an atmosphere, and the moment the tones drop, they take, like you said, they take training very seriously. They take mentoring very seriously. I've never seen people that can treat a job so seriously and still have fun with it. You can be serious and still love the job. You can be serious, over the top serious and still love being a firefighter.
Right.
You're not trading off the fun for training to be serious. Oh God, we gotta go to training. If you say, "Oh God, we gotta go to training again," you're in the wrong job. You and I've talked about this. Some of the mandatory awareness classes that HR makes you do every year, yeah, I could. But training was always my favorite part of the day. It's like, what are we gonna get to go break? Are we spraying water? Are we cutting holes? What are we doing?
Guys used to come up to me. I'd be up in the office in Squad 1, maybe not delayed too long, but maybe just up there a little bit longer than I normally was. Normally, I'd be down on the apparatus floor by now with a cup of coffee, talking to the guys about the upcoming shift or whatever. But I'd be in the office, and all of a sudden, I'd get a knock. I look at the door. It'd be Kevin O'Rourke. We lost Kevin on 9/11. What a wonderful, wonderful man, and what a great firefighter. He'd be at the door of the office. Hey, Lou, how you doing? Oh, good, Kevin. You working? That's great. I saw you on the list. You get the nozzle tonight or whatever. And he'd say, do you know what we're going to drill on tonight? We were just talking about it down in the kitchen. You have any idea what we're going to train on tonight? I said, you know what? I got a couple ideas. I'll run them past you in a minute as soon as I get back down there. But I think you'll like both of them. Oh, good. We're looking forward to it. And he'd walk out of the office with a skip in his step. You know what I'm saying? Like, what a wonderful world. You're sitting in a great company, Squad 1, but you don't have to be in a squad. You don't have to be in a rescue. You don't have to be in special operations or a big city fire department. You could be in a little 5-station fire department in Engine 1. And if you've got good guys, huh?
1-station department. Yeah.
Absolutely. And if you're working with a good crew and they got a good attitude and the fire department's structured right and the chief knows what he's doing and you're well trained, what a wonderful thing. Kevin O'Rourke knocking on my door. Hey, Chief, hey, Lou, what are we going to train on tonight? I was so impressed with that. Well, and it happened many times with him and others, even in other places.
And that's what it takes. It takes the mentors and the leaders that are having fun, the guys that care about the job, the guys that care about each other. You're talking about safety as a destination. When you come back in quarters and you start going, we're all here. We all have our fingers and toes. You know what I'm saying? We did good. I mean, and I'm not trying to sound like Ricky Drama here, but we have a very dangerous job and we don't get do-overs. We rarely ever get do-overs. We don't get do-overs. We have one chance to get it right. God bless the pizza guy. The pizza guy who burns a pizza, he just gets another one. We have one chance to get it right. All the stories we talk about, you with the covering lieutenant on a tower ladder pulls up on the Bronx Expressway on the wrong side. You don't stop him. A guy could be dead. A crew could be dead. Guys can be paralyzed, whatever. You don't get on the ridge, start yelling, get over there. That's back to sometimes you have to get loud with your children to keep them from hurting themselves. This is a dangerous job. There's noises, there's distractions, there's saws running, rigs, air horns, sirens, traffic, all kinds of stuff. How many times, John, you heard me tell the story when I was running at one funeral. I don't want to talk about where I was at, but I'm sitting with the chief. I'm sitting with the chief in his office. He's crying so hard. I remember his teardrops were hitting his desk, a couple went in his coffee cup. And he looked up at me, he says, I should have yelled. I said, what do you mean? He goes, I'll make a name. I've known Troy for we went through grade school, high school. We started here together. We've been here 32 years. He goes, we're my best friends. He goes, I should have yelled. I go, what do you mean? He goes, well, I'm looking through the window of my fire car and I see him. And I'm like, sure enough, he sees what's going on above him with that fire. Anyone else, I'd be like, get out, get your ass out now, get him, pull him out. He goes, I don't want to yell because he's my friend. I don't want to piss him off. And the hamster in my brain's going, you should have yelled, you should have yelled, you should have yelled, you should have yelled because we would be planning a funeral right now. You know what I'm saying? I mean, sometimes that's the problem with the thing we love the most about the fire service is the brotherhood and is her and our brotherhood. But sometimes to a fault, we're more worried about being a buddy than being a leader. How many times we said that? I did an article called, I want a leader who cares more about me and my family than about being my buddy. I got plenty of buddies to go football games with. I want a boss that's going to ring me, grab me around my neck and pull me back so I get to live the rest of my life.
And you know what? And it starts small. And I tell a story, and it's a squad story. Because when I went to the squad, I mean, I was a boss already. I had been in Rescue 3. I had been in 18 truck for a while as an officer. I wasn't an experienced officer yet, but I had time on a job. And I remember they used to drive so fast in the squad because we had a big response area. We had, I forget what it was, 9 or 10 battalions that we covered for working fires. And you got to fly there to get a piece of the fire. If you drive there and stop and look at every intersection and do everything exactly by the book, they'll be taken up, by the time you get there. But anyway, it starts small. The ability to either raise your voice or make make correction on people that you just sat down to lunch with or just watched the Yankee game with, you know. And there it was. I can't tell you how many times I took runs in where I was just biting my lip and saying, God, I wish you would slow down. And I never said a word because I didn't want to ruin their enthusiasm for getting there and for being a good chauffeur and for, you know, demonstrating their skills, driving skills and stuff. And it was a mistake. Eventually I did. Eventually I had to say something. But even there, even just a simple issue of, hey, slow down, Tommy. You're making me wet my pants over here, you know. And of course they'll slow down if you ask them to. But so it's all lessons to learn. And that's what experience is about. You know, you put more time in a rank and you start learning. You know what? I bet my buddy Tony Palazzolo was a captain of 35 engine. Oh, tough Tony. Man, oh man, oh man. Tough Tony. And I bet nobody went too fast when he was driving if he didn't want him to. I bet he had no problem being verbal with, hey, slow down, you know? And you got to remember that. Your mentors and your idols and the guys that you worked with when you were coming up, those are the lessons you got to remember and learn.
Well, and I you know this, I do a class called Great Leaders Make Difficult Decisions. Anybody can make the easy ones. Anybody can be his buddy. You know this, the greatest leaders you and I have ever studied, met, from Colin Powell to the greatest bosses in the FDNY in Chicago and everywhere else, they have two things in common. They all value family, like you. You value your family more than anything in the world. They all value family. And they can make the hard decisions. They can, you know, have that difficult decision. So okay, let's summarize. Let's finish things up. We're talking about safety is the destination. Let's have a summarization on that topic from Chief John Salka.
Very easy. It's a very easy one. Safety is the destination, and if you agree with that, and it's a pretty easy thing to agree with, then how do you get there? What's the road? What's the road to that destination of safety? And the road is training. The road is training. Pay attention to training. Whether it's little snippets at the scene of a fire, Billy, push the nozzle a little bit farther out. Now, how's that feel? Good. Oh, much better, Lou. Thank you. And, whether it's training at the scene of a fire, whether it's going over stuff after you get done. Hey, guys, gather around. Before we drive out of here, I know we didn't have lunch yet, but let's look at what we just did. Look at this. Another little training wrap up after a job, a car fire or a wreck on the road or even a regular job. And then, of course, organized, scheduled training in the firehouse or outside the firehouse, hands-on or discussions, whatever it might be, and you got to do it all. And you know what? It's all so easy. Everything's online now. If you got computers or laptops, you can see videos on TV, training videos, and all sorts of stuff is available. Never mind what's between your two ears and your senior firefighters. That's right. It's all right there.
It's all right there. I love the topic. And when we talked about this, I know a while back, when you mentioned the article to me, I go, there's a show for us, John. When you said, I just did an article called Safety is the Destination, I'm like, well, forget safety, think about, the training. But I'm like, it's a great topic. And you can, look, folks, I'm just going to end it with this. You can be safe and still have fun. You can be safe and still, it's like Brunacini used to say, you can do customer service and still break windows. You can still stretch hose and take care of people. You can keep your people safe and yourself safe and still have the best time of your life being a firefighter. We want you to go home.
It's the busy, good companies that have a lot of experience. They're the ones that do a lot of training, and they're the ones that have less injuries and less accidents. The companies that don't do a lot of work, if they're not doing some training to make up for that, they're the ones where you end up with all these injuries and accidents because they don't have experience and they're not paying attention to training. So
absolutely, folks, look, you owe it to yourself, you owe it to your family, to your loved ones, to your partners, to your brothers and sisters in the fire service, and to the people you serve. So there he is. You can be aggressive and still be safe. You can be, the best firefighter on the job and still be safe. You don't have to be crazy nut job about, because we talk about this, but sometimes we hesitate making decisions. We actually endanger ourselves even more, but you can't make good educated decisions unless you train, unless you've got something. And John, I'm going to finish up with this. We've said this before. You don't have to fight a lot of fires to be a great firefighter. We've said this over and over and over again. You know what? You want to be a great firefighter? It doesn't matter experience is great. You want to be a great firefighter, get into the job, train, take care of your people, know what you're supposed to do, know what you're showing up for as a volunteer career firefighter, and it all come out. So, hey, buddy, if they want to get a hold of you, what's the best email?
ChiefJohnSalka@gmail.com.
And I'm Chief Lasky at gmail.com, or you can go to chieflasky.com. And like I said, we post a lot. All the classes that John and I do together are posted there. Give us a shout if you want to host a class, or if you want to attend one, we'll get you taken care of. that this is another great topic. We try to keep these at the 35 to 45, 50-minute mark so you can listen when you're to and from work or working out. Our buddy Jeremiah Cole, he does that from Ohio. He listens all the time. You see him all the time with his headset going, just got my boost, my energy boost from Chief Salka and Chief Lasky. So, hey, in closing, we always ask you to please keep the men and women, armed forces, your thoughts and prayers. And remember this, never forgetting means never forgetting. Be safe. God bless you. And we will see you next time.
For over 20 years, the Fire Store has equipped first responders with the best in firefighting gear. Discover seasonal savings on the gear you trust and visit thefirestore.com to shop everything but the truck.
I've been told by everybody up on this roof that they're all off the roof. I am on the roof of exposure 4. Got fire through the roof of the 5 million, the entire rear section. Now remember, given the payday, as you can accounted for, okay? 610B, that was the payday, 610B.
I'm here. We got a fire. 1.5-story, single-family dwelling. Fire shown from the second floor. Give me a second alarm on this.
Bring up to the top floor. I got people hanging out the top floor windows with a baby.
Commercial building. A lot of fire, a lot of smoke. Go ahead and strike a third alarm on my orders on this.
Got people on the front fire escape here with windows centered below them. We need somebody up there.
Yeah, let them know we got a job. I'm pulling up now. Second alarm, I got a 1-story single-family frame. Heavy fire showing from the attic.
So we're using all hands. We got one line stretched, fire on the 4th floor. Second line being stretched.